Welcome to Real Talk. Thank you so much for coming to the last Real Talk. It's going to be great. Yeah.
And for listening to the Real Talk.
Woo! So, we've already announced the note cards. You all know what's going on with those. If you don't have one, please raise hand. Does everyone have one? Awesome. All right, so we're going to be passing around our sign-in sheet. Please sign it. Very, very important that you do that. Thanks. So this is the last Real Talk, and I just want to take a moment to say thank you so much, because what all of you guys who have come to more than one of these, or if this is your first one, thank you for coming to support this project. Thank you, Mrs.Hovanec, because isn't it fitting that you're closing and you opened, and I absolutely, Mr. McCall and Mrs.Hovanec supported this project the entire time. I absolutely could not have done it without you, your constant support, the fact that I was allowed to leave all my crap in your room, the fact that you closed down your Hoover time during AP exams, which is just unheard of and amazing. Not just one time, but twice a week, over 10 times, which is absolutely amazing. And I love you guys a lot, and that's so super, super incredible. I'm definitely gonna cry because this last Real Talk. And this project means so much to me, and I'm so, so glad that you got to close it and that you got to open it, and how special is that. So thank you guys all for being a part of this. All right. So without further ado, Mrs. Hovanec, and you are the company you keep. Woo.
Elizabeth got my tear factory going, so I need to take a moment to compose myself. So the whole point in the Teacher Talk lecture series is that we're telling you guys things that we wouldn't ordinarily tell you. So I need to get myself ready. A lot of the things I'm going to tell you today, if I've had you as a student, you've totally heard these stories before. But you're going to get some additional context in addition to stories I would never tell you generally. But you need to hear them. So, because of that, and because at the heart of my talk today, and I wrote too much. If I ever fuss at you in class for writing too much, I'm sorry, I take it back. At the heart of my talk today is you are the company you keep. So I want you to take a moment and just reflect and be grateful for the company you have that you're grateful for. So take a minute and think about those people in your life that you're happy to have them. Okay. All right. So I was raised in a very traditional household in Dayton, Ohio. So Dayton, Ohio is in the southwestern corner of Ohio, about 45 minutes north of Cincinnati, about an hour and 15 minutes southwest of Columbus. It's a manufacturing town. The biggest thing going on in Dayton, Ohio, besides the Air Force Museum, was the GM manufacturing plant. So again, very traditional household. My mom stayed home with us, there were 3 kids, until I was about 7 years old. We went to church every Sunday. My sister and I sang in the choir. I was also in the bell choir. I was president of the youth group. I was kind of a big deal at church, but not at school. So for some reason, even though I did very well at church with my church friends, I did not have friends at school. So that was weird. I didn't understand. And I was like, how can I be friends with these people, but not these people? They didn't transfer. And so part of it was that where we went to church was in the next town over, across from our rival high school. So I went to a Centerville high school, not yours, but I went to a school called Centerville, and I went to church across the street from Kettering. And not very many kids from my church went to my schools. So again, very traditional household. I was raised in a figure it out or deal with it and shut up kind of mentality. My mother is Texan, and my father's family is Appalachian, 2 generations out of the woods in Kentucky. So I was raised with this fierce independence, but also with how dare you intrude on my ability to take care of myself, mixed with some irrational generosity. So that will factor in later. For an example, I used to walk home and let myself in, since 1st grade. It wasn't very far, it was a mile, but I had a key. And because I was in 1st grade, I forgot my key all the time. So the first time I did it was November in Ohio. And I didn't have my key. And my mom was going to be home for 2 hours. And I was like, oh no, what do I do? I'm like, okay. So I sat on the back porch for 2 hours and waited for my mom to come home. And when she came home, it wasn't, are you cold? Like, what are you doing? It was, I can't believe you forgot your key. Figure it out. So I did. The next time I forgot my key, I discovered that if I dragged an Adirondack chair over to the back side of my house, I could, climb on up it, open a little window into a bathroom, and climb in the bathroom window. Not like a big, nice window, one of those like windows that's like this, because you don't want people to see into your bathroom. And that was just how I got in the house when I forgot my key. I understand why my parents would want to raise my siblings and I to be so independent. I want my own kid, and the one on the way, to be independent and resourceful children. But with a difference. Because I think there were some negative consequences of the kinds of independence that I was fostering. Sorry, I forgot I was going to say fostering. Having fostered within myself. So anyway, I was in Girl Scouts, like I'm sure many of you were, and the first time I had my birthday as a Daisy Scout and a Brownie Scout, my mom was like, well, you need to invite the whole troop over. And I was like, really? All of them? And yes, you have to have the whole troop over. So I'd have my birthday party with the whole troop. And then the next girl in the troop would have her birthday. Oh, I'm a September birthday, so that matters, because that was the beginning of the year. It set the precedence for the whole year. So the next girl would have her birthday and not invite me. And I was like, why? Like, what is this? I invited everybody, why am I not invited? And so the next year would come along and be like, Mom, she didn't invite me last year, that means I don't have to invite her this year, right? No, you still have to invite everybody over. And so it was just this weird, like, I feel like I'm being nice, but it's not being reciprocated thing. And it was about that same time when I had my very first bully. Which is not a story I generally tell, but it's fine, because I'm here. So my first bully was the older sister of a girl in my Girl Scout troop. And they also went to our church, and she was the crossing guard of our elementary school. And I was in first grade, and I was a walker, very independent. So Marla was her name. Marla would cross me across the street. There was only one street I needed to cross. And then she would put me in a headlock and walk me home. And at first I was like, cool, this older kid likes me. She's talking to me. Like, because she was. At first it seemed like she was very nice. She'd be like, hey Katie, what's going on? How was your day? Who'd you play with at recess? And I'd be like, I played with Kelly. And I was like, the big girl likes me. I'm in first grade, she's in 5th grade, I must be cool. But somewhere along the way it changed. The nature of the conversation changed from being, how are you today, Katie? Who did you play with? To like, you dumb first grader. I have to walk you home because you can't be trusted. And I don't really know exactly what the chain of events was because it was so long ago. But somehow my mom did get that out of me. But it had been going on like all year. She didn't get out of it till like the end of the year. And so, unbeknownst to me, my mom started to park on the street on the way home from school. And she saw it. And so the following day, the principal came to my classroom and I was like, oh no, what did I do? First grade. My principal's name was Mr. Hannon. And he was like 6'4", and he was like, where's Waldo? Just like the beanpole, and he was just huge. I just have this memory of him like bending over my desk to like have me look in the yearbook to point out Marla. And so he took care of it. And I didn't have to deal with that on my way home anymore. Because somehow I spoke out. But frankly, I was just kind of dealing with it because that's how it was. And I was raised not to complain. But that's one of my major lessons learned, that if you allow people to treat you poorly, they're going to continue to treat you poorly. Do not fool yourself into thinking they are ever going to stop. It's up to you. You have to speak out. You have to say something. In second grade, I continued struggle to make friends. This one's really embarrassing. I had this girl in my class who was beautiful. I wanted to be her friend so bad. She had really long hair, which is a bad reason to want to be friends with somebody. But I was in 2nd grade. So she goes, "You want to be my friend?" Yes, I want to be your friend. "I want you to kick Andrew." I'm like, "Why?" "Kick Andrew if you want to be my friend." So I was desperate to have friends. I know the girls at Girl Scouts continue to be sort of awkward around me. So I was like, okay. So I kicked Andrew. And then I was sent to timeout at recess, which at our school meant you had to stand on the wall and watch all the other kids play. I spent a lot of time on the wall, but I had a friend, which is so messed up, but it is what it is, right? Until again, my mom, right? She's wonderful. Told me like, because eventually somebody had to call my house and be like, "Your daughter kicks boys on the playground," which I can only imagine what that phone call was like. So she goes, when I explained to her, well, I want to be friends with, she says, "I need to kick him. I'm on timeout." She's like, "Katie, people who require you to do things to be your friend aren't your friend." Which is something that leads into another story that I want to tell you, just in case nobody ever tells you this. When you get to college and you're experimenting with life, and you're having a good time experimenting with being a young adult, the people who tell you that they like you better when you have been drinking, the people who tell you they like you better drunk, "Oh, you're more fun that way," those people are not your friends. Much like the girl who, why am I crying? I'm fine. It's because I'm pregnant. I'm totally fine, look at me. I've got a job, I'm stable, it's fine. Anyway, much like the kid who wanted me to kick Andrew on the playground, those kids like you, those people like you, and they're adults like this too. They like you for what they can get you to do. They like you because you are easy to manipulate. So you need to decide, like ahead of time, before you get in those situations, what you're gonna do so that you know what your standards are so you don't cross over them. Because those people who are goading you into doing things, they realize, they know that you're easy to manipulate. So anyway, 3rd grade, my parents decide that I'm old enough to ride a bike to school. That actually helped me make friends because there were a bunch of us who were allowed to ride our bikes to school. And we were like a little neighborhood roving gang. We'd like get on our bikes, we'd race the boys, we'd go down to the corner store and like buy candy all in nickels, like we found. And I got to be friends with this girl named Kelly, who was in my Girl Scout troop, but for some reason we never really hit it off. And it was awesome because for the first time, and really that whole summer I felt like, I have a best friend. I have a best friend, I have a person. Like I could go to Claire's and get a necklace and I have a best friend. This is awesome. Listen, I was in 3rd grade. I still feel that way as an adult. Until I realized, although she was my best friend, I wasn't her best friend. Her best friend was Courtney. And I was like irrationally in 3rd grade jealous of this. And if I knew that Courtney was already at Kelly's house, I wouldn't go over there, I'd stay home. Like hang out by myself. Because I couldn't deal with the idea that I wasn't actually Kelly's best friend. So fast forward the next year of Girl Scout birthday parties, which is like, the cycle. Those of you that have been Scouts, right? So it was Kelly's birthday, and Courtney was there along with some of our Girl Scouts troop, and we were hanging out, and everybody was having a really good time. Kelly's parents had a swimming pool, so we did swimming, we had like a dance contest, because that's what we do. And Kelly fell asleep, and Courtney and some of the other girls, including the girl with the long hair who used to make me kick Andrew, said, "Let's play a prank on Kelly." And I'm like, okay, I'll do it, because people were paying attention to me and I felt like I had friends. Like, okay, let's freeze Kelly's underwear. Which is so innocent, right? What did I do? I went to her bedroom, I grabbed a pair of undies, I got them wet, and I stuck them in the freezer. That's all I did. That's not entirely true. They also had me like calling boys, like we're in 3rd grade, I like you, hang on. But all the same, I felt like I had friends, right? And for somebody who felt like very much on the outside of the group all the time, I was like, I will do anything these girls want me to do. Anything. So I froze Kelly's undies. Man, she was mad at me. She did not talk to me for months. All I did was freeze her underwear. But at the same time, like, she was my only, like, close friend. And it was like, okay, well, what am I going to do this summer? She won't invite me over. Until finally she did, and we kind of moved on. And I know it sounds silly now, but it was a really big deal when it was elementary school. So I was an awkward kid. I told you I was really easy to manipulate. I kicked boys on the playground. I'd already managed to alienate Kelly. I had an assortment of moles that I've since had removed all over my face and neck and ears and stuff. And then I was the first one to hit puberty, which was awful. And I remember being in class one day in like 4th-ish grade, and a teacher asked us a question, and I raised my hand. And the boy across the aisle from me, who was like the stinky kid in class, he was like, ugh, why are you wearing a bra? Right? And as an adult, I'm like, deal with it. You know, but to be the first one in your class wearing a bra, I was like, oh my God, somebody noticed. And he capitalized on that. So that day on the playground, it wasn't me kicking boys, it was me in the corner crying, because the stinky kid realized that if he could get all the other kids to know that I was wearing a bra, that they wouldn't tease him for being stinky. So I went to go tell a teacher, and she laughed at me. She did, she laughed at me. Like, that's the end of the story. I will never laugh at any of you. Let's see. Then I got braces. That was also awesome. Being a teenager sucks. I'm glad I'm not one anymore. All right, let's see. Middle school. I started to ride the bus to school, and I made friends with this girl named Lindsay, who was actually in my neighborhood, but I didn't know her in elementary school because she didn't ride bikes. It's a big deal riding bikes. I don't know how you guys survive here. All your streets are too dangerous to ride bikes. But anyway, so Lindsay was, she was like the coolest thing ever. Lindsay listened, this makes me sound, I'm sorry, I grew up in a really, like, it wasn't a rural place. I didn't grow up on a farm, but it was like very bubbly. I didn't know things. But anyway, Lindsay listened to rap music, and she smoked, and she swore. And her mom wasn't married, and her mom worked at the local GM plant. As far as I was concerned, Lindsay was the coolest thing that I'd ever met in my life. She was none of the things that I was familiar with, and I thought it was so awesome that her mom, a woman, worked at the GM stamping plant with all the men, right? I hung out with Lindsay on the bus and at school, but not at home. I was allowed to have Lindsay to my parents' house, but I was not allowed to go to Lindsay's house. I was so mad at my parents. I was like, what? How dare you be so close-minded? Just because her mom's not married. Just because her mom smokes. Didn't tell them that Lindsay smoked too. How dare you? She's my friend. And they're just like, no, she's welcome to come to our house. You are not allowed to go to her house. So they stuck to that, so I planned a secret sleepover. So at a mutual friend's house, where again, I did a number of things I'm not proud to retell because people were paying attention to me and be like, woo! And anyway, I got my chance to hang out with her. But I want to fast forward to actually the beginning of last year, and some of you who were in my 9th grade English class last year, you've heard this story. Last year I got an envelope in the mail that had my parents' return address, but it was in my dad's handwriting on the envelope. So I opened the envelope, there's one thing in it, and it was an article about Lindsay. Lindsay was in jail. for drugs, for the things that people do to get drugs when they don't have money, prostitution. And I called my parents, and I was like, what is this? And they're like, well, and I'll preface this by saying my dad is like the only dentist in our town. And my dad goes, I knew that Lindsay's mom was on meth, and that's why I didn't want you to go to her house. And I knew that if you spent too much time with her, you would start to act like her. And you know, in retrospect, he was absolutely right. I had started to swear. I never smoked, I thought it was gross, and my ballet teacher would yell at me. You know, I had started to swear and do other things that I'm not going to talk about because I was hanging out with her. Not because, like, I'm cool, I'm going to be just like Lindsay, but because over time they became normal, and they weren't shocking anymore. And that's definitely something I want you to take into consideration when you go out and you meet people in the world. And you will be drawn to people who are shocking. But make sure that they're shocking for something good. Like they're shocking because they stand up for people. Or they're shocking because in the face of oppression or a rude or cruel world, they do the right thing. Don't stay with people just because they do naughty stuff and it's kind of fun. So we go back to middle school. You can imagine my situation with boys was really bad. It was really, really bad. But my English teacher fixed it for me. By some bizarre miracle of assigned group projects, I had a project with the only 2 people left in class that didn't have a group because I was the weird one. A boy who was a nice boy, and then the new girl to the school, the new girl from California, Brooke. Brooke is actually still one of my good friends. But anyway, I had everybody over to my house to work on the project, and we completed it, and Brooke went home, and the boy wouldn't leave. And I was like, Mom, why won't he go? She's like, invite him to dinner. And so he stayed, and we had dinner, and like, I ended up dating him for a long time as far as middle school dating goes. Really, it's not going anywhere, but just being like, you're my boyfriend. Like, until it ended. Until it ended. In part because he told me that when I wore dark green, it made my moles stand out too much and it was ugly. And because his football coach told him to. Yeah. It turns out that in Southern Ohio, what the football coach says, that's what happens. It's just the way it is. And I mean, my brother played varsity football, and it was the same way with him too. When the football coach tells you something, you do it or you don't play. So anyway, my mom took me that summer to have my moles removed. They're gone. The big ones anyway, the ones that were really bad. I had a really big one that was on my neck, right about here. I had 2 on my ears. I had a couple on my scalp, and like, so some of you know I have a daughter who's 4. Her first moles come in. I almost cried. I was like, we are gonna have that sucker removed as soon as we can, sweetheart. Because I'm not gonna let her go through that. I'm not gonna let her go through that. So anyway, that summer was actually a good summer because I hung out with Brooke, the new girl from California. And together we made friends with another girl, Miranda, and then there's an Evangelina, and for a while we were even friends with a girl named Jenny. Jenny turned out to be another one of those girls who only wanted to be friends with me for things I could do for her, mostly introduce her to my ex-boyfriend's friends. She didn't last very long with us. Freshman year of high school, I made the dance team, which seems like it would be a really great thing for me and my perpetual friendlessness, but it was bad because I don't even know why. It was ridiculous. I made the dance team. I didn't give my squad leader any problems because I'd been in dance since I was like 4, and I could always be counted on to memorize my dances. And the senior took the captain of the dance team took me under her wing, and she would let me sit in the back of the bus, right? Which was normally reserved for seniors only. Freshmen would sit at the front of the bus and be nerds, right? So she even let me sit at the back of the bus on the way to dance camp the summer before school. And the juniors decided they were super mad at me. So when it came time for initiation, they had their special ways of torturing me. So let me talk to you about that. Initiation seems to be a word for hazing. All the new girls had to stand at attention, which I know the marching band kids know, but the rest of you don't. You basically stand very perfectly still like this. We had to tap our chin at above 90 degrees and not move. And we were standing on a patch of grass in the center of our town. There were like 12 of us, while the older girls put all manner of disgusting things on us. The junior girls didn't pretend to hide their motivations, as they covered me with wet cat food, wet dog food, poured sauerkraut down my shirt. They put Cheese Whiz on my nose. They threw eggs at me. They rubbed tuna fish in my hair, and I just stood there, because that's what I was supposed to do. Although realizing at this point in my life, it took me a while to get to high school, right, and realize this isn't right. This is not a thing I should have to do to be friends with these girls. So I did my best. I stood there at attention the whole time. I did my best not to gag. Well, they videotaped it, and the whole video ended up on our end of year highlights reel. Not a highlight in my life. The year that I was on the dance team was really rough. The dancing was fine. The relationships were very bad. And it was weird because I never really knew where I belonged when I would get to school early in the morning, because you're a freshman, they drop you off way too early. And it was like, do I go hang out with my friend Brooke and the girls I spent my summer with? I could go do that. But I feel like I'm supposed to hang out with the dance team girls. These are supposed to be like my girls, right? Because these are supposed to be like the best girls of my life or something. But they didn't want to hang out with me because they were mad. They were worried that older girls would be mad at them. And then I was like, okay, well, I can go hang out with my friends that are in orchestra, because I had been in orchestra since 4th grade, but that didn't feel right either. So I didn't know where to go. So I ended up hanging out with my friend, this girl, Lauren, who'd been in my German class since 6th grade. Lauren played the trumpet in the marching band. God bless Lauren. And Lauren had friends from her neighborhood. She'd gone to a different elementary school, and they would let me sit and have lunch with them. I say that because I had another lovely bully in my high school years who used to come and find me at lunch, and we had round tables, kind of like what you guys have, but only round tables. I know you guys have some stigma about the tables. And no matter where I sat, she'd come and tell me I wasn't allowed to sit there. Didn't matter where I sat. So anyway, Lauren would let me sit with her and her friends Lynette and Shawnee, and Lynette and Shawnee were also freshmen on the dance team, and we would tell Lauren all about the things that were going on, and she's like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, the band director would not allow that to happen. You need to try out for the color guard. And we were like, yeah, but we're on the dance team. And Lauren was like, no, you need to join the color guard. So at the end of the year, it was time for officer tryouts for the dance team. And the captain, who'd been like my special protector, came up, and she like literally took me aside and, I really hope you're going to try out for an officer position for sophomore year. I really think you've got what it takes. And I had to tell her, no. Heck no. Lauren found an older color guard girl to come and teach me how to spin, how to do color guard. And I spent the rest of my high school career on the color guard. And it was fantastic. It was fantastic. There was no initiation. Yes, there's band camp, but it's nothing like what you think it is. It was fantastic. Everybody was nice. There were 250 kids in the marching band at my school, 50 of them in the color guard, and it was awesome. And I didn't feel the need to have one special friend that was mine. I had like 250 people who were enough like me that if they knew I was bored on the weekend and didn't have anything to do, they would invite me to go somewhere. If for no other reason, they like being in large numbers. You know band kids. We like our big groups. Okay? Then it was time for my birthday, that first summer after band camp, right? And my parents had just moved to a house with a pool, so I didn't have to rely on Kelly anymore, plus that ship way sailed. And so I invited the whole marching band to my house for a party. And an older girl, who's actually now a friend of mine, now that we're adults, goes, why would you go to your house for a party? Because, well, you're a sophomore. Anyway, she's fine now. I promise. She grew up and became a functional adult. It took her some time and some humility, but she's okay now. But anyway, yeah, that first year I had like 16 kids over. The following year we had all 250 kids at the marching band at my parents' house. And it was funny because that was my junior year, so I was even inviting the freshmen over, and the freshman parents would call my parents and be like, are there gonna be adults at this party? Is there gonna be drinking? My parents were like, yes, there will be adults, and yes, there will be drinking, but it will not be the children. Come on over. So my parents made awesome friends with the marching band folks too. Because the freshman parents would come over expecting like, I don't know, some kind of like high school bacchanalia, and it literally was like us going swimming and eating chips and soda and pizza and being like nerdy together. And that was it. And it was so idyllic that I don't know that I can even possibly express it to you in a way that doesn't make it sound like a cheesy high school movie. Being in the marching band was great. The girls even made sure that, you know, if I didn't have a date to a dance, they would make sure that like it worked out. And when when I got to the place that like I wanted a high school boyfriend, they like, all of our boyfriends were friends and the girlfriends were friends. There was some like weird band cess going on, but it was okay. And I still saw my friend Brooke every Friday. Brooke was the president of our school's spirit club, so she was at every single sporting event ever. That was part of her job description. So on Friday nights before the football games, Brooke and I would go across the street from our high school and have dinner at a local restaurant, and then we'd go to the game, and then we'd like, do you guys know what Steak and Shake is?
Oh, yes.
Okay. So we would go to Steak and Shake after the game together and like stay up to midnight, like, you know, drinking our milkshakes and just hanging out. And like, even to this day, Brooke is one of those people in my life that like, I don't need to talk to her every day. I don't need to talk to her every month. But shoot, if I'm having a bad day or she is having a bad day, I can pick up the phone and call her, and it's like nothing, no time has passed. She's just one of those people. But then it was time to graduate. I knew where I was going to go to school. I was very lucky in the days of really, really early acceptance. I knew that I was into school on October 30th. Senior year was awesome. Like, whatever, I already got into school. Top choice, done. But then, like, none of my friends went to Ohio State. Most of them went to Miami because they spent more time studying than I did. Miami of Ohio is kind of the way you guys seem to regard UVA or Virginia Tech. So anyway, everybody went to different schools. I had to work all summer because my parents, it was hard enough for them to pay for me to go to college and buy my books. They were like, you want to eat? That's on you. So I worked. I worked really hard all summer. But because Ohio State was on quarters, not semesters, I didn't start school until the end of September. All my friends had been gone for like 2 months. So I turned 18 years old on September 10th, 2001. The following day was traumatic for a number of reasons. And I was living in Ohio, for crying out loud. I wasn't here, I wasn't in New York, I wasn't in Pennsylvania. I was just a brand new adult in Ohio. So it like rocked me to my core, and I was like, oh my God, I need my people, and it wasn't like I couldn't just hang out with my family. And so I became friends with this girl, Adrian, who had been in color guard with me, but she was also going to Ohio State, so she was still in town. And we did everything together. When my high school boyfriend broke up with me, even though like we planned to be together forever and get married, and I was gonna have his babies and whatever, I was devastated. But she was there for me. And we went to school together. And my college roommate didn't show up for an extra week because she was coming from California and all the plane flights had been canceled. Now she had to drive from California to Ohio. And Adrian was there for me. Adrian felt like home while I was at college. And it just kind of the way that was until we both joined sororities. We joined different houses, but that was fine. It was a very positive experience for me. I feel like it's worth noting that although I was hazed at the dance team in high school, I was not hazed at the sorority in college. In my senior year of the sorority, I was elected to be the one who inducts the new members, and I did not haze those girls either. That's not how you bring people into a fold and make them feel welcomed and appreciated, by being unkind to them. You need to make people feel loved and appreciated. But about that same time, we both started seeing guys, and I started to date Mrs.Hovanac. And she was really mad at me for that. And when I graduated from Ohio State, I graduated in 4 years and Mr. Hovanac in 5 because he was in the party card plan. It all worked out. He has a job too. He gets paid more than I do. She would get mad at me when on the weekends I would want to go spend time with him instead of her. I mean, it was crazy. But in the world of friendships, when there are people who make more withdrawals than deposits, you need to know when it's time to close the account. So long story short, that person now lives here in Northern Virginia, and I still don't talk to her because I don't need that in my life, and you don't either. So please be careful of the company you keep, and thank you very much for coming. If you have an index card, give it to Elizabeth.